Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Welcome back to my continuing series on the new generation of Rough Ryder StoneWorx knives. I believe this is the 7th one that I'm going to be showing. It appears at the moment that there are 12 knives in this series, which sort of makes sense because the initial StoneWorx series of knives also had 12 knives in this series. However, I'm running into a little bit of a conundrum because of the way the knives are actually labeled. However, I can't say this with certainty simply because of the way the knives have been numbered. Because as you can see here, the lowest number I have found so far in the series is RR2414, and that was the copperhead. And we see here on the blade here, RR2400. And this knife is RR2414, which is, well, 15 numbers higher for a series of 12 knives, which kind of means a few numbers have been skipped. And actually, so far, the highest number I've found in the series is RR2417. The numbers that have been missed are 2407, 2411, 2412, 2413, 2415, and 2416. So that's 6 patterns that are missing, which begs the question, will there actually be 18 knives in this series, or are there just going to be 12 knives in the series and 6 knives were canceled? Who knows? We'll find out as time progresses. Now, for me personally, I'm definitely hoping that there are 6 more knives in this series, and I'm hoping at least 1 or 2 of those might be some kind of fixed blade. That would be really cool. In any case, let's get started on the RR2414 because I'm sure some of you are dying to see this one. And that's because what we have here is the bow trapper. Now, from what I understand, the bow trapper was originally designed by Andy Armstrong. But most people who look at this knife will look at it and go, hey, it looks like a Saddlehorn Trapper to me. And that's the first thing I thought when I saw it too. It's basically a Saddlehorn Trapper. The main difference between this and a Saddlehorn Trapper is that the frame is bent a little bit more. So it's more of a banana-shaped handle than what you'd normally find on a Saddlehorn Trapper. It's got a much more curve back here. That's good and it's bad. For the most part, it is good. It really does kind of feel good in the hand when you're using it. However, the downside of it is when you put 2 blades on the knife, which is what they've done with the bow trapper and the way it was originally coming out, you have an issue with it. And that is when you open up the main blade, you have the secondary spay blade back here. And, you know, it's got a nice straight edge going on there and everything. But when you hold it in your hand, especially if you have to grip it for any length of time, that blade starts bugging you. And if you have to grip it tight, you definitely have a hot spot running the entire length of the blade, which is problematic. Now, most of the time, you're not going to be gripping it real tight, and you're not going to be holding it for a long time. So it's more of a minor inconvenience than a major inconvenience. But if you're having to use this knife for a long time, it would definitely start working on you, and you would probably decide to switch knives. It is even a bigger problem when you're using the spay blade because now you have much more blade popping up over here. So really what I wish they would have done when they came out with this in the StoneWorx series is gone with a single-bladed bow trapper. And I would have loved to have seen this clip blade stay in place. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, wait a minute. They have the upswept bow trapper. Why wouldn't they just go with the upswept bow trapper? And I guess a lot of people would like that. This is the upswept bow trapper. And I think I know this is definitely a Andy Armstrong design. And when you hold this knife in hand, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It feels much better in the hand. It's a much more comfortable handle to hold because there's no secondary blade in the way there. And while you got a nice little Skinner blade going on here, they said an upswept, but it really doesn't sweep up very much. It's almost straight. But still, it's a nice little trailing point you got going on there, and it feels really good in the hand. But it is also a very slim line going on with it. And what I do like about the bow trapper over this knife is it's a much beefier frame. Much beefier frame, if you can see there. See that? Much beefier frame. It doesn't bend quite as much. And you've got a more substantial blade with that clip blade. And if you did not have the spade blade in the way, the clip blade would feel, this whole handle would feel just great in the hand. So my suggestion to Rough Ryder is ditch the spade blade on your bow trapper. That's just my thoughts. I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there saying you're making a big deal out of nothing. It really isn't that bad of a hot spot or anything, and it really is a personal preference. Some people definitely would prefer the two-bladed knife versus the one-bladed knife. Now, this knife has been around for quite some time. I actually won one in a Rough Ryder giveaway on National Knife Day some 4 or 5 years ago from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. And it was in the classic carbon series, and here it is. And you'll see there's a difference here. This one does not have a half stop. Everything else about it is pretty much the same. Obviously, there's no big R anymore. And this has the T10 carbon steel going on with it. Well-made knife, though. And that is the case with a lot of these knives. They're just really well made. And you can see that here on the back spring here on this knife. Can you see that? Let me get a little bit better lighting, maybe, if I can get a little more light on there. You see that? There are absolutely no gaps going on there. A little bit of a gap right there, I guess. If the light hits it just right, you can see a bit of a gap right there between the brass center spacer and the two back springs. Again, the knife has 440B stainless steel, so a step up in the stainless steel. And this is pretty cool. Was that on the other? Yeah, it was. I did not even realize that until just now. They have a little spot there, so you can actually attach a lanyard through there. You'd have to pass the string through, and then you could actually hook a lanyard into that. Now, this just has a lanyard tube, but this has a little lanyard post, I guess you would call it, hidden inside there, inside the frame. So that's pretty cool. The stones, they're symmetrical, which I really like. You've got the blue turquoise on the outside, and then you've got the angled, they're calling it agate, but I still will call it the bloody basin jasper. And then you've got the malachite, white mother of pearl, and black mother of pearl in the middle. So black lip mother of pearl right there in the middle. And that is one of my favorite stones, is the black lip mother of pearl. I really like that. And it's really a nice offset for it. It's also nice to see the malachite in there. I think it actually adds to it a little bit. It's a nice distraction from the other colors that are going on with it. And I think they did a really good job with that. So I'm very happy with that. The pinch bolsters, I've already talked about those before. And really just a nice clip blade. The action on it is pretty smooth. This is right out of the box. I have not cleaned it or anything. As you remember, I had some issues with the muskrat. That has improved quite a bit over time. But both blades work pretty well. I'd give the pull on these around a 6 or a 7. Now, someone asked, what do you mean by a pull of a 6 or a 7? They're kind of new to slip joints, and they're not exactly sure what we're talking about there. And I'm going to tell you now that the pull is going to vary from person to person. But basically what you're talking about is how heavy the pull is. How hard is it to open the blade? With 10 being almost impossible to open, and they will often sometimes refer to like the 8, 9, and 10 level as a nail breaker pull, and that when you're trying to open the blade, you very well could break a nail trying to open it because it is so hard to open. 10 is extremely hard, and it just doesn't give, and you sometimes feel like you'll never get the blade open, or you just give up on trying to open it. And that's what the 10 is. A 1 is the blade is so loose that you can just flip it open real quick with no problem at all. There's no pull at all, and you feel like it's just not safe because it is so light. For me, I prefer a pull somewhere in the middle, and that would be the 5. And I guess that's the sweet spot. So when someone says a 5, they're kind of looking at the sweet spot. It's not too hard to open. It's not too easy to open, and you feel confident when you're opening it that the blade is going to do what it's supposed to do. The other thing, a lot of people will look at this and they go, okay, that is an issue. So they'll say, okay, that's like a 7 or an 8. If you were to able to just push this and it start to slam all the way to the half stop or shut all the way closed, then they would be saying, oh man, that thing really closes real easy. They give it like a 3 or 4 or something like that, and it'd be a problem. Usually though, they're talking about how hard it is to open. And if they're saying it's a 5 or a 6 or something like that, they're saying that for them, for the individual, it's a good pull. So, you know, any of the 4s, the 5s or 6s are good. 5 is really what I think most people are shooting for. Some people will actually say they prefer a heavy pull, and then you'll hear them saying it's got like a 7 and they're happy with it. And that usually is something that they talk about with a work knife, especially when they're talking about closing. They want a knife that is hard to close because they don't want the blade to slip. And so when they're saying, yeah, it's got a good pull of like 7 or 8, they're really talking about that it is definitely harder to open, but you feel confident that wherever that blade is, it's not going to move on you. With a 5, you're more likely to think, okay, well, the blade's going to move on you a little bit. But for me, that's not a big deal. I've never seen slip joints as something that are heavy use knives. And if you know what you're doing with a knife, even if it's got a pull of a 3 or a 4, or even if it's easy for it to close, then you know how to choke up on it. You know how to hold the blade so it will not fall and close on you and everything else. So it's really something that you need to just get used to using a slip joint. If you've used them all your life, then the pull is just something you need to you want to know about, so that when you're using the knife, you're not going to have a problem with it. I guess that was a big distraction there, or a big digression there. But anyway, let's get back to the knife here. Well, you can see it's really tight. Everything is good. The stones are flush. Yeah, you can rub your hands across them. They're all fitting really well. Blade alignment, not that big of a deal for me, but you can see that both blades are definitely favoring the show side. Well, you can if I show it to you. They're both favoring the show side, which would be the front side of the knife, or the side that has the clip blade. You can see that right there. Some people would have a big problem with that. You can also see that they do move a little bit, which is common because they got to open. And these blades really open well. Yeah, I would say both of them have about the same pull on it, and the pull is about, what did I say before? This is a little lighter. I would give the clip blade a 5 or a 6, but the spade blade, I'm definitely going to give that a 6 for sure. It's definitely a little stronger than the clip blade. But other than that, well, there you go. It's a really beautiful knife. I really like the way it looks. I think they did a really good job with the stone selection. I really like the malachite and the red look pretty good. And, well, you got the black mother of pearl in the middle, so all a very pretty knife. Again, this is, what was it? This was the 2414. So, will there be more than 12 knives? Only time will tell, but if it plays out right, there might be room for expansion. There might be 6 other StoneWorx knives coming other than the 12 that have shown up so far. In any case, I think I've rambled enough on this one. Hopefully I covered it well enough. I mean, all I can really do is go over it over and over and basically say the same thing, because every one of these knives, really the stones are spot on. Yeah, I had one that had a cracked stone in it, and that was early on, but there's no crack in the pearl or anything, and the synthetic stones look really good, and same with the nickel silver spacers. It's all really just nice. So with that said, let me just move on to the slides and I'll let you go.
Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.